Welcome back, class. We're going to be talking about buffers today in AP Chemistry. This is just about going to round out Unit 8. Buffers, what are they? Buffers are solutions that resist changes in pH. So if you have a solution that's not a buffer, adding acid is going to dramatically drop the pH, and adding base is going to dramatically increase the pH. Well, a buffer solution is something where you can add acid or base, and it's going to resist dramatic changes in pH. That's because they're going to contain both acidic and basic elements. And the acidic elements in the solution are going to have the ability to cancel out base, and the basic elements are going to have the ability to cancel out acid. So small additions of acid or base are canceled out, therefore resulting in a resistance to pH change. This can be prepared by one of two ways. You could take the salt that contains a conjugate base of a weak acid. For example, if you have acetic acid and you dissolved sodium acetate in the acid, you've created a buffer solution. That's because the solution will now have acetic acid, which is the weak acid, and acetate ions, which is the conjugate base. You could also do the opposite. You could dissolve a salt that has the conjugate acid of a weak base, something like ammonia, and then dissolving NH4 ammonium ions in it. So the solution must have both acid and conjugate base parts. Another way you can think about it, if the solution has a conjugate acid-base pair, then it will be a buffer. So if we look at a qualitative example of sodium fluoride and hydrofluoric acid, hydrofluoric acid is going to be the weak acid. Sodium fluoride is going to contain the weak conjugate base, or the effective conjugate base. So sodium is just going to be a spectator here, and then the fluoride ion, that's going to be your conjugate base. So let's assume that we made a solution, and we took hydrofluoric acid and we dissolved sodium fluoride in it. In that solution, we're going to have a bunch of different species present. The sodium will be floating around as a spectator, but more importantly, we're going to have some acid and we're going to have some conjugate base. Now, if the concentrations are equal, that makes a very strong buffer because the addition of base is going to react with some of this acid, and that's going to resist the pH change. Let's take a look at that. So if we take OH, which is a strong base, and we add that to the solution, the OH is going to react with the acid. The acid is going to react to form water, which is neutral, and then more of the conjugate base. So we consume the acid and we produce more of the conjugate base. The consumption of the acid will continue until the acid runs out, and at that point, you would have a dramatic change in pH. The buffer solution would have then been used up. But as long as we still have both substances remaining in the solution, we can consider this still a buffering solution. The opposite is also true. If we add acid to the buffer, the acid is going to react with the conjugate base to form more of the acid. So the conjugate base gets consumed, and we're left with an increase in the HF. So the pH is going to change a little, but it's not going to change drastically because we have both of these ions trying to offset that pH change. So we could add even more acid, and more of the F- will be consumed. Until we run out of the F-, it will continue to act like a buffer solution. As soon as we run out of all the F-, then the solution pH will change dramatically. So a solution that is a buffer contains an acid and its conjugate base. The addition of base will be counterbalanced because there's acid present. The addition of acid will be counterbalanced because there's conjugate base. So in this way, the buffer resists changes in pH. The capacity of a buffer. The capacity of a buffer is the ability of it to keep ions in the solution. So the more ions you have in the solution, the better the buffer. So buffer capacity can be explained by the amount of acid or base that is available to neutralize before the pH begins to change. So it's going to depend on the amount of acid and base from which the buffer is made. If we look at these two buffers, we can see that they're both effective buffers because they both contain acetic acid and they contain the sodium acetate. Keep in mind that sodium atom there, that's just going to be a soluble ion. Think of it like a spectator. So after the spectator leaves or goes into solution, then we're left with acetic acid and we're left with acetate ion. So both of these are good buffers because they have an equal capacity to balance out acid and base. That ratio of 1 between the conjugate base and the acid tells us that they are very good both at balancing off addition of acid and base. However, if we look at the total amount of moles present in the solution, we can see that buffer A has a much higher concentration. So therefore, buffer A is actually going to be a better buffer. Both solutions can resist pH change, but buffer A has a greater capacity to resist pH change because there's more stuff in the solution. pH and pKa, 8.7. An important thing about the pH-pKa relationship is how it shows up on a titration curve. And when the pH is equal to the pKa, we call that the half equivalence point. So a traditional titration curve would look something like this, where we're titrating an acid, and here we have our equivalence point, so that's where it stops. And then halfway through, so let's say that this is 20 mLs, at 10 mLs, we would be at our half equivalence point. And this is a significant value because the half equivalence point, whatever the pH is on your y-axis, that is also equal to the pKa of the solution. And then we can use some logarithmic calculations to go from pKa to Ka. So understanding the half equivalence point is going to be very important for understanding what's happening in a buffer solution. So this entire area here, we can kind of consider this the buffering zone, because we're not quite at the end point, and we have a solution that is going to buffer the pH. So specifically, this area right here, you can see that it's mostly flat. This is really kind of your buffer zone. Now, comparing the pH to the pKa, if we have a solution that is less than the buffer point, then that means we have a pH that is lower. So this situation means that we have more of the acid than we do the conjugate base. Once we get to the buffer point, that means that the ratio of the conjugate base to the acid is equal. And then once we move past the buffer point, in the green here, that means that the conjugate base is actually higher than the acid. So you can see the pH is starting to rise, and the point at which the pH increases dramatically, that is the point. So let's just call that this point here. This is the point where the buffer is no longer effective. We've used up all of the ions that were buffering the pH, and now the pH is going to experience a dramatic shift. So understanding the half equivalence point is going to be very important. If the pH is less than the half equivalence point, we're going to have more acid present. If the pH is greater than, we're going to have more of the base present. If the pH is equal right at the half equivalence point, then pH is equal to pKa. So when we're comparing solutions pH and pKa, we can identify the dominant species. pH greater than pKa, we have more base. pH less than pKa, we have more acid. pH equaling the pKa, we are at the buffer point. So then we have the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. This equation is going to be helpful for understanding the pH of a buffered solution. So this considers the pKa of the acid. We can figure this out graphically, we can be given it, or we can calculate it. It also deals with a ratio of the weak acid to the conjugate base. And remember, ideally, a great buffer has a relationship of 1. And when we're doing this, we're assuming that the initial concentrations and the equilibrium concentrations are about the same because we have very low Ka values and things like that. So we have low ionization. So here's our equation. pH is equal to pKa plus the log of the base over the acid. Now here's a very important thing to recognize mathematically. If this is equal to 1, like an ideal buffer would be, then the log of 1 is equal to 0, which means we have a mathematical relationship here that if the ratio of acid to conjugate base is 1, then the pH is equal to the pKa. That is the buffer point on the graph. That's your half equivalence point. So that's going to be super important for you to recognize. But if the ratio is not 1, then we can plug into this equation. Let's take a theoretical look here. Let's say we have this buffer has a pH of 4.74, and you can see that the ratio currently is 1 to 1. So therefore, we can say that the pH is equal to the pKa. So what if we add some base to that? The base is going to react with the acid, which in this case is C2H3O2. It's going to react so that the exact amount of base that is added removes acid from the solution and converts that acid to base. So then when we're figuring out our ratio, we can plug into the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. We started off with 0.3 for both of them. However, by adding 0.02 of the base consumes the acid and decreases the concentration by 0.02. And when that base is consumed, it creates more conjugate. So the decrease of the acid is equal to the increase in the conjugate base. So we can say that we started with a solution that is a pH of 4.74, and we're finishing with 4.8. By adding base, we did not get a big pH change. That's what a buffer does. Now, on the opposite, if we add acid, that acid is going to react with the conjugate base present in the solution. It's going to react in a stoichiometric way. So when we plug into our Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, the amount of base that is consumed is equal to the amount of acid that is gained. So instead of starting at 0.3 molar, you can see that 0.02 moles of acid consumed the base and transferred that to acid. And then we get a pH change of 0.468 from the original 474. So notice the pH does change, but it's just resistant to change. If we did not have any buffer in the solution at all and we just added acid, the pH change would be dramatic. So that's kind of an intro to the acid-base topic here, buffers, and the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation.